we will hear from a special message of support from Axel Leblois from G3ict, which is a global initiative for ICTs that promote accessibility, that promote and advocate for accessibility of rights of people with disabilities. G3ict are one of our conference partners.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you so very much for inviting us to participate in this opening session of the conference today. We are super happy that such gathering occurs. We are actually very involved since 15 years in promoting the digital accessibility provision of the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. And my name is Axel Leblois, and I serve as president of G3ict since 2006. So this morning, very briefly, I wanted to tell you some very good news and some real nice progress made across Africa in matters of accessibility. Since many years, we monitor how much progress is accomplished by countries. This year, we had 137 countries participate in their index, the Digital Accessibility Rights Evaluation Index. And among those, 33 countries from sub-Saharan Africa participated. And I want to thank very much all the panelists who served on that survey, and I'm sure quite a few are in the audience today. Anyway, the very good news is that at this time, 97% of countries in Africa have ratified the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. And as a result of that, 91% do have a constitutional article or law that specifically protects the rights of persons with disabilities. And that may seem like a normal thing for most of you, but in reality, 15 years ago, very few countries had such legislation in place. So it's a great accomplishment, a very great success for the CRPD and its impact. And just to dive into some details to show you, especially from an end user, person with disability perspective, what that means. Almost 2/3 of the countries in Africa today have a legal definition of reasonable accommodation. That again is terrific, in that 15 years ago, almost no countries had such definition. And that means that if reasonable accommodation is denied, that's discrimination against persons with disabilities. So it's a very strong legal foundation for future policy making and progress among countries. Now, there are some areas where there is still progress going on, and for instance, only 48% of countries in Africa have included ICTs in their definition of accessibility. So that's something that needs to happen in a greater number of countries, because if you consider ICTs as incorporating everything digital, from television to mobile to computers to websites and everything else that's digital interface. If you don't have that in the fundamental definition of the law, that accessibility obligation covers digital, then it's much more difficult to push for policies to be implemented. Anyway, that's all the good news. And we see that in terms of implementation, most countries today, like 88% in Africa, have an agency in the government that focuses on persons with disabilities. So that means there is a group there that is supposed to push for positive reforms in the field of accessibility. However, only about half of the countries have a government entity that is specialized and competent and focused on ICT accessibility. So there again, there needs to be a greater effort on the part of government to make sure that there is somewhere a team of folks who actually can handle digital accessibility issues across government and in policy making in general. So with that said, there is one fundamental gap that I wanted to underline today, which is really important, and that is that only 18% of sub-Saharan African countries involve persons with disabilities in the policy making, monitoring, and that, in our opinion, is probably one of the most missed opportunity for many governments, because without the input of persons with disabilities, without advocates being able to explain what works for their constituents, without that voice which actually explains how to make things productive and work, deploying accessibility policies and programs is extremely difficult. And so again, 82% of countries do not involve persons with disabilities in their policy development, policy making, and policy monitoring. And I just call for action here that, look, it doesn't cost much to do it. It's just a fantastic way to be more effective in terms of policy making. And we have seen time and time over, countries with the best performance virtually always involve persons with disabilities in the policy making about accessibility and the monitoring of those policies. So that's a key message I wanted to share today, especially given the fact that we have an audience today that includes government officials, advocates, and many persons with disabilities who are interested in seeing progress. Now, to conclude on a very bright note, I wanted to mention that in this year's survey of the DARE Index, which by the way is publicly available on the www.G3ict.org website, there are actually 4 countries in sub-Saharan Africa that are clearly above worldwide average in performance. And those are South Africa, Kenya, Zambia, and Angola. And for each of those, you can see the country profile in the country database of G3ict, and it gives you a sense of what can be achieved. If those countries achieve it, everybody can achieve it. So that's kind of the principle behind that effort to kind of share good practices and always demonstrate that when progress is possible somewhere, it should be implemented everywhere. Thank you for your attention. Enjoy a great day today with fantastic topics that are lined up for the rest of the agenda. Thank you.